Good evening. It is February 2nd, and this is a regular meeting of Troy City Council. Please silence your electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Mr. Brock Heath. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's go to break. God, we come to you here today and help us appreciate the fact that we are the best country ever to be on the face of this earth. God, we appreciate that fact. We appreciate that we're born here and are able to live here and work here. One of the freedoms that we've got. God, please be with the warriors we've got overseas. Help them defeat the enemy and to come home safely. God, help us defeat our enemies that we deal with in our lives on a daily basis. And through your name and your power, we're able to do so. Amen.
Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Heath,
Here.
Mr. Tremblay, Mrs. Oda,
Here.
Mr. Swazer,
Here.
Mrs. Sneed, here, Mr. Kendall,
Here.
Mr. Twist,
Here.
Mr. Phillips,
Here.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
I move we excuse Mr. Trevor.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Phillips to excuse Mr. Tremblay. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Sneed. Yes. Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Twist,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay is excused.
Mrs. Knight, please read the minutes of the January 20th meeting of Troy City Council.
Minutes of Council, January 20, 2015. There was a public hearing on ordinance number 01, 2015, a rezoning. Committee reports. The Personnel Committee reported regarding some appointments, and the reappointment of Russ Bayer to the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund Committee was approved. The reappointment of Roy Carlson and the appointment of Jordan Romberger to the Enterprise Zone Tax Incentive Review Council was also approved. Recreation and Parks Committee recommended legislation be prepared authorizing Park Board to execute an addendum to the lease of the property known as Barn in the Park for a shed structure to be placed. Committee recommends legislation be prepared authorizing agreement regarding Troy Strawberry Festival. Resolution number R2, 2015, addendum to lease agreement, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 01, 2015, a rezoning of Hobart Brothers ITW property, second reading. Ordinance number 02, 2015, Strawberry Festival agreement, first reading and adopted. Following comments, council adjourned 7:50 p.m.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes as read.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Clark and seconded by Mr. Twist to accept the minutes. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Sneed. Yes. Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Twist,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Move on to committee reports and ask Mr. Twist to have the Community and Economic Development Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This committee met on January 27th to review a rezoning recommendation from the Troy Planning Commission. That recommendation is that 40 parcels that make up the site at and adjacent to 600 West Main Street, which is known as the former Hobart Brothers ITW factory site and the two parking lots, be rezoned from M2 Light Industrial District to OC1 Office Commercial District. The OC1 zoning would be complement the commercial district and respect the nearby residential uses. There were no comments made opposing to the rezoning at the public hearing held January 20th. It is our recommendation we support the findings of the Planning Commission regarding this zoning and recommend that ordinance number 01-2015 be adopted to provide for the rezoning of the 40 parcels that make up the site at and adjacent to 600 West Main Street, known as the former Hobart Brothers ITW factory site, and two parking lots from M2 Light Industrial District to OC1 Office Commercial District, and that is respectfully submitted by Thomas Kendall, John Schweizer, and myself as chair, William Twist.
Are there any questions from council on the report? Do you have anything further, Mr. Twist?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Are there any other reports? Let's see, we've got the next report of Recreation and Parks Committee, and Chairman Mr. Brock Heath.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee members Tremblay and Heath met on January 27th to consider recommending a professional services agreement with Crossroads Consulting Services to perform a feasibility study related to a second sheet of ice for the Hobart Arena. From a business standpoint, the study would address the economic impact and financial feasibility of a second sheet of ice. Funds for such study were included in the 2015 budget in recognition of the support of a second sheet of ice received during discussions related to the Riverfront Development Project / Hobart Arena portion of the project. This committee recommends that legislation be prepared authorizing the Recreation Board to enter into an agreement with Crossroads Consulting Services to perform the feasibility study regarding a second sheet of ice for the Hobart Arena at a cost not to exceed $50,000. That is respectfully submitted by Mrs. Oda, Mr. Tremblay, and myself, Brock Heath as chair.
Are there any questions from council on the report? Do you have anything further?
No, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. Are there any other reports to come before council? Seeing none, then we'll open the meeting to citizen comments. There is a 2-minute time limit at this point in the meeting, and Mr. Livingston is our timekeeper. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments relating to any of the agenda items this evening? If so, please come to the microphone and state your name and address before addressing council.
Lester Connor, 1210 South Clay Street, Troy, Ohio. On the saying that there was no opposition comments from that, I didn't hear, or maybe I didn't hear it, but I didn't hear you say there was none for it either. You only gave one side that there was no opposition?
Correct. When the public hearing is for those that are for or against.
Right, but you only said there was no one against it, but you also didn't say there was no one for it.
At the meeting, there was neither.
Right, well, that's what you should have put in your comments both ways.
All right.
Okay, thank you. And then I would like to know why the city of Troy has to get consulting agencies all the time. We've got people that I feel is qualified, at least making money-wise, to be qualified to look at these and stuff, to come up with an idea whether or not something can be done or not done in Troy, Ohio. I mean, we waste a heck of a lot of money on consultants, and I just don't understand why everything now has to go through a consultant. I mean, maybe somebody could enlighten me why?
Mr. Titterington, on the
Well, I guess it's subjective as to whether or not the city spends a lot of money on consultants. I don't think that we spend that much myself. However, in a case where we could be investing or asking the council or the public to invest several millions of dollars in a venture that could potentially be financially feasible, could have a wider impact, and which appears at least to have several constituencies that might in fact back that type of initiative. In the budget, we discussed that we ought to have somebody who knows that business, knows the economics and the financial aspects of that type of business, and can give us and give the council an informed set of recommendations as to whether or not to move forward with a significant capital investment such as that.
Okay, I mean, I know, like you said, it doesn't seem much to you because, and my wages compared to yours is like this, so, it just seems like a lot of citizens' money that could be used in different ways. I mean, Treasure Island, we spend a lot on consultants. Hobart Arena, a lot of money spent on consultants. So, that's all I got to say.
Good evening. I just have a couple things. Crossword, what is it that you have? Crossroads, is that it? The contracting? Where are they from?
Crossroads Consulting?
Yes,
I think they're from Florida.
okay. The last few weeks, I've been out talking to residents, and they are all for the second ice that I've spoke to, and you know how I feel about it. I get too excited. I was going to wear my dog nose tonight. I thought tonight's not the night to do that. So I wanted to pass it on that the residents is for the ice that I've spoken to because haven't been happy over at the levee. They also are concerned about the bridge being shut down again on Margaret Street for the Strawberry Festival. I just wanted to pass those things on with you. And I'm glad to see that the second ice is being an option, because I think that'll be really great. I fell in love with it as soon as I walked into Hobart, and I think you will have a lot of events there, and it'll generate enough money for to keep Big Hobart going. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further then, we'll continue with resolutions and ask Mrs. Knight to please read Resolution R3, 2015.
Resolution number R3, 2015. Resolution authorizing the Recreation Board of the City of Troy, Ohio to enter into an agreement with Crossroads Consulting Services to provide the Hobart Arena second sheet of ice feasibility study, cost not to exceed $50,000, first reading.
Are there any questions from council on the resolution?
Move for suspension.
It's been moved by Mr. Clark and seconded by Mr. Phillips to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Snead? Yes. Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes. Move to adopt. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schweizer and seconded by Mr. Kendall to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead? Yes. Resolution is adopted.
Moving on to ordinances, I ask Mrs. Knight to please read Ordinance 01, 2015.
Ordinance number 01, 2015, ordinance changing the zoning of 40 parcels in the city of Troy, Ohio from M2 Light Industrial District to OC1 Office Commercial District. This is the property of Hobart Brothers ITW, former factory location and parking lots, has been recommended for approval by the Troy Planning Commission. Third reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Clark to adopt the ordinance. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead? Yes. Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
That completes the business portion of tonight's meeting. Mrs. Knight, are there any communications or announcements?
Yes, I had provided council with information related to filing financial disclosure statements. Just wanted to make sure that you all received that email, and just a reminder about filing those statements.
Thank you. Mayor Beamish, do you have any comments this evening?
Well, thank you, Madam President. Just last week, we had the opportunity to introduce the newest members of the class of 2015 Leadership Troy. There's going to be 22 individuals in that class. That's usually the maximum. So there's a lot of interest in Leadership Troy and getting involved, many of which are already involved in this community. So they'll start and go through their monthly sessions. But I wanted to make sure everybody knew that we do have a class starting. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Titterington, do you have any comments this evening?
Yes, ma'am, very briefly, just to remind everyone that February 16th is President's Day. City offices will be closed. Council meeting will be the following evening, the 17th at 7 p.m. Trash and recycling pickup will be on the normal schedule. Again, we only alter that schedule for Christmas and New Year's, and so we will be on a regular schedule regardless. that's all I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Livingston, do you have any comments this evening?
None this evening, Madam Chair President.
Thank you. Mr. Stickle, any comments this
I
evening?
have no comments, Madam Chair.
Does anyone on council have any comments?
Yes, Madam President.
Mr. Phillips?
Mr. Terrington, sorry I didn't email you this, it just came to me when I was reading the items of interest. The signal lights that we're going to have removed or potentially had comments for potential removal in some of the intersections. Where is that?
We haven't made a final decision on it. We're just gearing up for the year's plan. We had identified 3 potential stoplights to remove. At this point, I do not believe we're doing anything with the stoplight at Cedar and West Main. The other 2 are still being looked at and could potentially be converted to some kind of a stop sign situation.
And one more thing, the LED street lights, any information come out of the trial so far?
No, we're still gathering the information. We've gotten a couple of monthly bills, and then Miami Valley Communication Council is going to take our data, Ketterings and Miamisburg, since we were all 3 communities involved in that, and then we will see the cost effectiveness and whether or not it would make sense for us to convert to that level.
Thank you very much, that's all I have.
Any other council members have any comments?
Madam President.
Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm excited for the future of Troy to see what happens with Hobart Brothers and the rezoning. I think it will mean a big difference for our community in the future. Again, it's forward vision. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Any members of staff have any comments this evening? Anyone else in the audience have any comments? Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Make it a peace-filled week. Meeting adjourned.